All right, let's get back to the Intel site. So today's topic is going to be just the Intel site in general. We talked about duration spells, but let's just kind of go over all of the things you can do with the Intel site. So again, the first tab we want to look at, this is probably the one you're going to want to look at most when you're looking at stuff, is the overview. Now, it's got your most recent update. Say, for example, you have orders to attack, you know, there's a chain target, a dump target, yada, yada, yada. And you have a certain amount of offense. Let's go with 150,000 offense. So you can sort by defense or sort by defense home, for example. Now, if all of the intel is appropriately updated, including spy on military, these numbers may be very different than what they look like here, right? Especially for attackers, a lot of times their total defense and their defense home will be very different when they're armed. So for this province here, this orc needs a spy on military. Let's go ahead and do that so you can see how it changed, right? You see 113,000 defense, 113,000 defense home. That's probably not true because we haven't done the spy on military yet. So let's go check. Province, number 16. So let's choose number 16. Drop down, military. This auto fills to 5%, but if you're not sure, you can always click the 5%. Run operation. All right, and here is the spy on military. He has attacked, and he's got about 6 hours for his armies to return. He sent a good amount, but not all of his army. So, now when you go to the Intel site, that should be updated. See how it's green now? It changed, right? Now, if it doesn't change, if you do the spy on military and it still says the same thing, just make sure to click this refresh button here. So if you click refresh, any new intel will be updated that you've done. So he's actually got 84,000. So let's go back to the hypothetical, right? You have 150,000 offense and you're wanting to attack certain provinces, one of them being this province. Well, 150 is not enough to break 84. Now, it's important to check because if your offense says 150 here, that doesn't include your generals or things like if you haven't cast Fanaticism or if you're playing Orc, if you haven't cast Bloodlust, those things increase your offense. So if you have 150,000, by casting Bloodlust alone and your generals, you should easily have more than 100 enough to hit this guy twice. So that's what you probably should do if this guy's the chain target. But let's say your offense was 150, even with all those extra spells and generals and stuff like that, right? Well, you can only hit this guy once. So you would do that. You would hit this guy once with 85,000 or whatever it takes to break him. Then you would have, let's see, how much is that? 65,000 remaining. You don't typically want to just keep that home. You want to send out another attack. So then you look and you see what other provinces you can break. Okay, well, it looks like anybody from here down. Now let's just assume all of this intel is updated and new, and so these are accurate numbers. Any of these provinces you can attack. You do want to attack one of them. Now, you want to check your royal commands and see if one of those provinces is also listed, because if they are, that's the one you want to hit. If not, then you probably just want to take the one with the biggest defense that you can break, or the one that you can hit multiple times, which in this case would be the dump target, which is number 14, right? So again, going back to the hypothesis or the theoretical, you have 65,000 offense remaining after attacking 16. 65,000, you could either break, any of these guys, any of those guys one time, or you can hit this guy 2 times, right? So it's up to you which one you think is better. Again, if one of those provinces is listed as the second chain target or something like that, go with that one. If not, it might be best to hit the dump target. Why? The dump target is an important target. In wars, there are people getting chained all the time. chained means lots and lots of provinces getting one province, right? So our kingdom is going to be getting chained, you know, 1 or 2 provinces at a time. Jump target is important because you force that defense to keep dropping and dropping and dropping, so that when a chained province, for example, let's say I'm chained and I'm at the bottom of the acres, they've chained me down to nothing, you know, I'm going to need a low defense target to just gain acres from, so that I can recover from the chain and mitigate the chain. So that's why it's important to like just keep knocking down the chain target. Now there are multiple options. You can do different kinds of attacks because your gains on this target, he's only 80,000 net worth. Your gains on that target probably won't be very high. However, it's not about your gains. It's about what this province loses. So when you attack this target twice, even if you're only taking like 20 acres, 25 acres, that probably doesn't feel like a lot for you. However, for this province, 2 hits of 25 acres is 10% of his acres. That's still a lot for him to lose. Furthermore, it continues to overpopulate this province, which means his military continues to desert. When that happens, his defense continues dropping, and that creates a nice chain target. Now, if he's really low, like 200 acres or lower, then yeah, you can throw out like a raise attack to just destroy some buildings. It will further overpopulate until he's able to rebuild those acres. But it's a very temporary effect, whereas the actual acres that you're removing from him by doing traditional march is a little bit more damaging and permanent. So that's just an example of attacking, how to choose attacks. So let's go on and look at other things we can do with this intel site, right? You can sort by their race, personality. You can sort by their acres, net worth, you know, population. So like this province right here is overpopulated based on our latest intel, right? We've hit them enough times to where they're 133%. This province as well. That's a good amount of population. I think this guy is currently the chain target, so that makes sense. The halflings, I know they were listed as targets to be attacked as well, so those both make sense that they're overpopulated right now. We definitely need to chain this one lower. But anyway, here is based on the intel we've already done when their armies return. As you can see, a good majority of them return in about 3 to 5 hours. You know, you can sort by offense, which is if you're deciding on the strategy, this is a good way to decide who you want to start chaining first. This is how we decided to go with this guy. Typically, you want to drop their highest offenses. So if you notice here, there's 3 offenses that are all about 200k, right? And then after that, you have a big drop to 165. So if you chain these 3 provinces, when you go to our kingdom and you sort by defense, right? Now you have a potential 2 targets that can become UB or unbreakable. Now, I'm not actually unbreakable because my defense home is actually much lower than my total defense, but most of the time, or hopefully, you will have other, probably Thief Mage provinces, like Bulbasaur and Caterpie and things like that, that will have higher defense, that we can get them to a place where they're unbreakable. And that's a good position to be in, but to have your TMs be. Okay, going back to the enemy, what else can we look at? You can sort if you've done the appropriate intel. So this is another important topic. Getting full intel on somebody, you have to do 4 different intel operations all within the same tick. Now, typically I ask artisans to gather these because artisans have a unique ability, a passive ability. Whenever they do intel, they're 100% guaranteed to get the intel at the expense of it costing twice as much. That's why I have them do it on the rogues and the TMs, the enemy TMs, because the rogues especially are going to have high TPA. If we're trying to get an attacker to do Infiltrate Thieves Guild, Survey, Spy on Sciences, and Spy on Throne, they might run out of mana or stealth just from doing one province. But this is where artisans are really, really handy because they can get it, you know, without failing. Now you have to do all 4 of those that I just listed in the same tick. If you do one and then you wait a tick and do the rest, it will not update this very important column here, which is the wizards per acre. This is a very important column, and this is why we do a full intel, is mostly to get this information here. Because TPA you can get with just Infiltrate Thieves Guilds. That will tell you the TPA, it'll calculate it out just fine. Survey will tell you what kind of buildings they have. Sciences tell you what kind of sciences they have. Okay? When you do all of them together, the game will automatically, well, the bot will automatically calculate what their wizards per acre is, because now it knows how much population they have and so on and so forth to be able to figure it out. But it has to be done within the same tick. So, for example, this province is one, I think I did this one a while back. He's been hit a few times already, so yeah, naturally his TPA is going to go up, his WPA is going to go up, and so on and so forth. But it's really important for determining, like, do not hit targets, fireball targets, night strike targets, etc., 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 right? We want to focus on the targets that are doable for our hybrids and thief mages to succeed. You know, like, I wouldn't want to try to have people doing night strike on this guy, right? With 9 modified thieves per acre, that's really, really tough to beat, right? But, you know, somebody that has like 1 or 2, that's a lot more likely. Okay, what else can we do with this? You can see their building efficiency. You can see how much they've been hit. Extremely means they've been hit a lot. Not much, or not much means almost nothing, if nothing. A little means they've probably been hit once. Moderately means they've probably been hit twice. Again, you can see the bad spells. I don't know if there's a way to find out what good spells are. And how old the intent. That's just from the overview tab. Now, I'll go through the other tabs, but probably a little bit more quickly. Or it's one that I use a lot when coming up with strategies and looking at things like that. It actually is a good one if you are a mage and you're trying to fireball somebody, or if you are the recipient of fireballs. This could be a really good tab to look at. Peons, peasants, right? You can sort by peasants. So as you can see, this undead cleric here has a lot of peasants. This brings up a important topic. So if you're doing, let's say you're getting fireball, it's okay to do some kidnaps on him. Why? He has a lot of peasants and you want to get some peasants quick, right? The reason you want to do kidnap when you're fireball, if you can, is because you jumpstart your birth rate. Birth rate works by how many peasants you already have. So if you, for example, fireball a province down to 3,000 peasants, you know, their birth rate, they're going to gain like 50 or so, just putting a number out there, like 50 or so peasants per tick, right? But if you fireball them down to 1,000 peasants, they're going to be gaining like 10 or 20 peasants per tick. So it'll take them much longer to recover their peasants over time. So that's why it's important when you choose a fireball target that you go deep. You want to fireball them down to very little. For example, this is one of our fireball targets. He's down to 1.38 peasants, 1,000 peasants. That's a good amount. We can probably move on to the next one, which is this one. So after we've gotten both of them under 1.5k, for example, then we can move on and choose another. But normally I'm the one that'll be looking at that, and I'll be the one posting the fireball targets and the commands for you to see. Fireball is an op that you don't have to worry about looking at, like, oh, do I need to cast this because it's on for a certain amount of times? No, if it's listed as a target, just do it. Even if they've already reached the number that I'm trying to get them to be, it's okay. Do more. That's fine. If they're still on the royal commands, do it. Because once I see it, I will update it, and it's okay to do more than the number I'm trying to reach. Horses, if you're looking to steal horses, that's really rare, but can be useful. It says how much offense they have at home, and yes. But that's mainly the main thing to look at here with the war tab is the Alright, military. This is another place you can look at peons. So you can either look at war or military. Peons is listed here. If we've done the full intel, you can actually see how many wizards they have. Now, just so you know, the sorting doesn't always work. As you can see, it doesn't, especially wizards, it doesn't seem to sort very. But you can look at the wizards, you can see how many they have. This could be really important if you are a rogue and you're in charge of doing assassinate wizards or propaganda. This could be something that you look at. There's a bunch of stuff here. I encourage just check it out. You can see how many troops they have in training. Like this guy's still training nearly 4,000 troops. This one's training 4,000 defects, so on and so forth. Right? There's lots of surveys. If you've done the survey for that province, you can see what their build is. Now, a lot of these builds are old from before they had converted builds. This one is more recent, but it looks like his build hasn't arrived fully yet, because this only adds up to like 50%. So 50% of this guy's build hasn't even come in. Science. This one's not really that important to look at during war. You know, these numbers will calculate into the overview stuff that you really care about, so it's not too important to look at this. Now, really late in the age, there is a spell called Amnesia, and if somebody is really decked out in sciences, you know, we could try to do like amnesia spells on people to like lower their sciences. Depending on how well you do with those things, you can really cripple a province. Let's see, what else? Resources. That's another really good one. Assuming the intel is, you know, recent, you can sort. GC is a big one to steal GCs. Like, they have a lot of GCs on them still. You can see the total their whole kingdom has is 3.3 million based on this older intel. You need new SOTs to find out. Now, let's say you do a spy on throne on somebody. Let's say this guy. I'm not going to do it because he's a rogue and I don't have much stuff. But update to green, and let's say he does indeed have 500,000 gold. If you do a rob the vaults on this guy and you steal 50,000 gold, it will automatically bring that number down to 450, which is pretty cool that the bot does that. But at the end of the day, you still need to do more spy on thrones to see, like, you know, if they've gotten in a tick or if somebody sent them aid, etc. Same goes for food and runes. And in this particular one, since it's resources, it also lists their raw thieves per acre. So you have an idea of how hard it'll be to steal from those provinces. Now, this will only appear here if you've done an infiltrate, if you or anybody in the kingdom has done an infiltrate thieves dens or thieves guild on the province. So if you haven't done it, that's why all these are blank. You can't see what their thieves are, but these are filled because we have them. It tells you how old the spy on throne is, and if you've done a survey, it'll tell you how many watchtowers they have. So I think we've done surveys on all of these, and none of them are running watchtowers. This Bratwurst Panny Puri might be a good one, because he has no watchtowers and he has less than 2 thieves per acre. These two aren't too bad. If you're a thief, you can probably still. You can look at all, which just puts it all together. You'd have to do a lot of scrolling to see all the different things. I don't recommend doing all. I recommend just clicking on the tab that you want to see more condensed stuff in. Armies, it tells you like how many armies are out, what they have sent, you know, how much to ambush. Oh, that reminds me. Let's talk about ambush. If you're going to, let's say somebody attacked you. Let's say, okay, this Gandhi Chorizo, right? He attacked somebody and gained 33 acres. This IntelSite will calculate for you how much you need to send on an ambush. So if you hover over it, it tells you right there, 26,137. So when you go to the war room, you choose the person, I don't remember who it was, but you choose ambush. It's important that you choose ambush first, right? Because the way things are calculated with ambush is different than one. So you choose the ambush, Then the province info will load up here. And the thing is, this is their actual defense at home. So you want to ignore that. If you're ambushing, you want to look at the army, look at how much you need to send, and that's how much you want to send. So 26,137. Now, clearly I don't have all those troops home, but let's say I had 2,000 goblin. Okay, that's 30,000 defense or offense, sorry. And they have 26,137. So I could drop this a little bit more. Let's go 1,900 and see what that does. 28. Let's try 17. 26,749. That's okay. You don't have to go exact. If you want to, you can play around with this number even more to get it down closer to that number. But as I would just go with, you know, okay, it's enough to beat them. It's a little over, that's fine. And then you prepare the military. Okay, what else? That should do it for most of the... Okay, oh, real quick, down here at the very bottom, this information won't be entirely accurate unless you've done all of the intel, right? For example, wizards and thieves, it won't show the actual total of this unless you've done all of the intel on every single province, because this is the entire kingdom's total amount of... with thieves, all you need to do is the infiltrate thieves on all the provinces. This will be accurate. Wizards, you need to do all 4 intel operations on every single province to actually get a good idea of how many wizards their whole kingdom has. But more importantly, it's good to see how much offense they have total, how much defense they have total, how many peasants they have, and GCs and runes and food. Those are the main things to look at. Soldiers, not that important. Units, not that important. You can derive information from these things, but the most important ones are those. The other way you can do that is you can click up here at KD stats, and it'll compare the 2 kingdoms. So the top is our kingdom, bottom is their kingdom. It tells you the difference of the land, the net worth, offense, defense, peasants, units, soldiers, right? So it's important to know, you know, they're winning on the peasants right now, and this is very obvious. Like, notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mystics. All right, so they have 7 mystics in their kingdom. They have a lot of firepower with magic. So right up front, they're going to be fireballing the crap out of all of us. That's why our peasants are so much lower. We started with a higher number of peasants than they did. They, in the first, you know, wave of operations and stuff of war, they've been able to fireball the crap out. Makes sense. That's the kingdom we're fighting against. That's the strategy they're running. Then that's just to deal with. You know, hopefully we can beat them down. And you know, ops, you know, they came out of ceasefire, so they all came out with 100% stealth, 100% mana, as many runes as they stockpiled before, and the ability to do what they're doing. But after that first burst of fireballs and stuff like that, you know, you should start seeing a lot of those ops dwindle. Because mana takes time to recover. Runes start becoming difficult to come by if their, you know, building efficiency is so on and so forth. So, you know, they're gonna have that upfront burst damage, but it should start tapering off. I think that covers pretty much everything about the Intel site and a few tips and ideas about hacking, you know, looking for targets and things like that. I know this is a bit longer of a video, but